Hey, what's up folks, how's it going? This is Watch. Hope you guys are all doing well. And today we're going to be taking a look at the Razer Kiyo Pro. This is a dedicated 1080p 60 frames per second webcam that also has some HDR video capturing capabilities, something unique in this kind of space. And since the start of the pandemic, having a dedicated webcam has been super important. There was a big actually shortage initially, and Razer has kind of stepped up their game and brought out their own high quality, high frame rate 1080p webcam that's going to compete with things like the Logitech StreamCam. Now we're going to basically take a look at the key features, benefits, overall design of this dedicated webcam to see if it's right for you. And we're actually using it to shoot this video right now so you can kind of get an idea. But let's take a look at what this thing has to offer. Now, the imaging sensor on the Kiyo Pro is relatively large for a webcam. It's rated at about 0.8 inches in terms of size. It's developed by Stravas, which typically develop imaging sensors for CCTV and security cameras that are ultra low light sensitive. Now, in terms of the optics, we have a maximum aperture rating of f2, as well as a focal length of about 3.8 millimeters. The outer portion of the lens is actually made of Corning Gorilla Glass 3, which makes it ultra scratch and damage resistant, but you do have a full lens cover for privacy reasons, also very handy when you're traveling around. Now, the camera interfaces with PC or Mac using a nice braided cable. On one end, it's a Type-C connection to the camera. The other side has a Type-A connector, which is definitely a nice thing since most people don't have a lot of USB-C connections on their motherboards or their laptops. On the bottom portion of the camera, you'll also find a 1/4 inch mount for a tripod or any kind of third-party stand that you want to attach this to, and also the included mount that fits typically on your monitor or laptop screen is also very versatile and stable. Now, you can shoot with 3 different field of views with this camera. One is a wide 103 degrees, another one is a medium 90 degrees, and a linear 80 degrees field of view, which is typically found in most webcams. Now, the Kiyo Pro can shoot uncompressed video 1080p 60 frames per second in standard dynamic range. In high dynamic range mode, you get 1080p at 30 frames per second. And in terms of controlling all your settings of the camera, you do so using the Razer Synapse software suite. Here you can change the viewing angle, whether you want HDR on or off, the exposure settings, saturation, contrast, things like that. And then you can save your picture profile within the camera itself and then use whatever streaming software, OBS, XSplit, or Zoom or anything like that, and all your settings will be saved using the software suite. Now, in terms of the image coming out of the Kiyo Pro, it definitely looks a little bit more realistic and neutral compared to most webcams out there that actually have a lot of post-processing built inside to make facial features, skin tones look smoother and more flattering. In that sense, the Kiyo Pro is definitely less forgiving, but you can add more contrast, boost up the brightness and exposure to have that kind of similar look. And in terms of the high dynamic range capabilities of the camera, this is a pretty decent example in this scene where we have details kept in the highlights outside of the window, as well as shadow information being well preserved as well. Now, in the standard dynamic range mode, you can see that most of those details are being blown out in the highlights and lost in the shadows. But in most case scenarios, if you're on a video call or doing a let's play tutorial where you're picture in picture mode, you typically don't need to see those extra details. It's mostly about the subject being in focus and being well lit. Of course, there may be some situations or users that want the best video performance possible, want the most greatest dynamic range they can get out of their video calls, tutorials, let's plays, things like that. So in that circumstance, the Kiyo Pro definitely has a big edge up since there's not really too many HDR dedicated webcams out there. But really on that, guys, that's really it. Now we're going to have a direct comparison between the Kiyo Pro and the Logitech StreamCam. So make sure you have post notifications turned on, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And if you're watching this video and that other comparison video is out, it's probably in the description down below. But in the meantime, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you real soon in the next one. Take care.